This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
Sorry about the audio issues on episode 350 of The Door Report. Unfortunately, it is a great episode, but a little bit quiet. So turn up the volume in your headphones. Something happened with microphones. We will be back better for episode 351. Head body. Welcome back into The Door Report, and welcome into episode 350 on a lovely, rainy, but not quite snowing and icing yet, Tuesday, January 21st, 2026. It is not Tuesday. It is Wednesday. Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. I'm Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, a.k.a. Hack Squad. Jim Duggan here at The Door Report. We are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Shipping is always fast and free. I think I screwed that up. I was listening to a car drive down the interstate.
Yeah, you sound like a Hellcat.
Yeah, that threw me off. Next up, Roback Activewear. There is only one way to describe Roback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has released so many items within their newly licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these levels of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Have you seen anybody else in the market pairing these levels of custom designs?
I hate to interrupt the ad read. I realized I made a ginormous goof. It's episode 350. I titled this episode 345.
Do you want to restart it?
No, we can keep it going. I'll change it at the break. I just want to let the people know it's 350. Big episode for us.
All right.
That's been bothering me. I just noticed it.
Okay. How did you do that? It's 5 off. It was 349.
I don't know how I did that.
Okay. A lot going on inside of TDR headquarters.
We love Roback, though.
We do love Roback. And Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing for their custom designs. They are both super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. Roback has been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, both past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. You can use code VAN20, that is VAN20, all capital letters, no spaces, on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers. That's spelled Roback, RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code VAN20. Last but not least, we are partnered with the NIL store. Visit nil.store/doorreport15 and get some merch from your favorite Vanderbilt athletes. It is basketball season, so check out their offerings of both men's and women's basketball players and use code DoorReport15, all capital letters, no spaces, for 15% off your entire order. Check that out at nil.store/doorreport15. Trevor, a lot has happened.
I offer my sincerest apologies to Roback, by the way.
You interrupted the ad read.
I'm so sorry,
They're
Roback. Don't take our sponsorship
hundreds
away.
of thousands, if not millions of dollars off that interruption, and it's fine.
Code VAN20.
Code VAN20. But since we last recorded, a lot has happened. We are, of course, a little bit off our schedule. Normally, we record on Tuesdays, release on Wednesday mornings. We're, of course, recording on Wednesday night, releasing on Thursday. That is because the national championship was on Monday night, when we normally would have recorded. And then Vanderbilt played on Tuesday night. We are facing a similar predicament going into next week. Vanderbilt plays on Tuesday night. Do we know if we're recording Monday or Wednesday of next week? Or is that still undecided?
Let's do Wednesday again. That way we can react to Kentucky.
Yeah, let's do Wednesday so we have multiple games to recap. But we have 3 Vanderbilt basketball games to dive into, and then premium message board questions to get to. Trevor, Vanderbilt, since we last recorded, 3 straight losses.
Yeah.
When we last recorded, Vanderbilt was in the top 10, was undefeated at 16-0. Since that recording and episode release, Vanderbilt is now 0-3 and quickly falling in the polls prior to their blowout loss on the road against Arkansas. Vanderbilt was ranked number 15, and they are sure to take a bit of a dip in the upcoming poll. But Trevor, the vibe check's been a 10 out of 10 for a while. What's the vibe check right now?
The vibe check has severely plummeted. Vibe check is going to be a 3.1 out of 10, 3.1 out of 10. Why do you ask? That's Devin McLaughlin's block rate in conference. So we're at a 3.1 out of 10.
It's a bit of a drop. The transfer portal has officially closed. So I will quickly read through a consolidated list of guys that entered the portal and guys that are coming in from the portal. And that will probably be close to the last discussion we have on football, unless some news breaks until close to spring practice begins. So that will be segment 1, and in segment 2, we'll focus largely on premium message board questions. Before we get into all that and much more, we are now a part of the On3 Publisher Network. Visit thedoorreport.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium membership and support TDR for access to premium content, as well as our premium message board behind closed doors. If you subscribe today to an annual membership, you can sign up $1 for your first $1 to join, and you also get a complimentary subscription for a year to The Athletic. So be sure to subscribe to thedoorreport.com today. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. It's now time for segment 1. Welcome back into episode 350 of The Door Report, and welcome into segment 1 with now a corrected scrolling banner on the bottom. It is episode 350, a bit of a milestone here at TDR, a nice round number, episode 350. Nothing planned. It's just going to be a normal episode of TDR. But is what it is. First, to start out, we're not going to go into detail into any of this because we did discuss in depth the last couple episodes Vanderbilt football's moves in and out of the transfer portal. So I'm just going to read a quick consolidated list of guys that are leaving Vanderbilt football. Quarterback Drew Dickey, he is headed to Arkansas State. Quarterback Jeremy St. Hilaire, headed to Arkansas State. Running back A.J. Newberry, running back Chase Gillespie, wide receiver Trent Richardson, he's headed to Louisville. Wide receiver Boski Barrett, wide receiver Chance Fitzgerald, tight end Whit Edwards, he's headed to Missouri State. Offensive lineman Misael Sandoval, he's headed to Ball State. Offensive lineman Cooper Starks, headed to South Dakota State. Defensive lineman Terry Azila, headed to Marshall. Defensive end / edge Linus Zunk, headed to Washington State. Outside linebacker Jalen Ruth is returning to Vanderbilt, as we talked about last episode. Star / outside linebacker / safety Brandon Fournette is headed to Colorado, and cornerback Trudell Berry has entered the portal. Coming in to Vanderbilt, there has been one addition to this list. Tight end Javante Connor from East Carolina, offensive tackle Bo Johnson from North Dakota State, interior offensive lineman Lyndon Cooper from Pittsburgh, defensive lineman Talon Carter from Jacksonville State, cornerback Kobe Sellers from Texas A&M, punter Tyler Evil from South Dakota, wide receiver Cole Adams from Alabama, edge C.J. Jackson from LSU, long snapper Caden Schickel from Michigan State, offensive lineman Micah DeBose from Alabama, edge Brian Allen from Iowa, safety Ricardo Jones from Clemson, wide receiver Ja'Cory Thomas from Old Dominion, and the most recent addition to Vanderbilt's incoming transfers is Michael Diarra, a defensive tackle from Oklahoma State, as well as edge Edwin Colinge. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so.
From Boston College. I think that's the only two. Walter Taylor.
The prodigal son.
He was a quarterback at Vanderbilt. Initially played quarterback at Ball State. He has announced he will be playing tight end at Vanderbilt, about 6'6", 250 or so. Is that about the size?
That is about, yeah.
We'll see how it works. We'll see if the Eli Stowers situation works, transitioning from quarterback to tight end. But he's a physical specimen, so we'll see how that works out. Feels like a high risk or a low risk, high reward situation for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I agree.
So that is it for the transfer portal. It has closed as of the 16th. However, due to the federal holiday on Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, some transfer portal entries are still being processed as there's a 48-hour business day window, I guess. I thought it was just 48 hours, but for them to process, so players are still announcing that they're entering the portal as we speak. But most things have settled. I will add, I wish I had the numbers in front of me, the updated numbers, because they've changed so much. But I had it at the beginning, how many players have entered the portal and how many guys are still out there sitting. I think we're in like disaster zone.
Wasn't it something like at its peak, it was like a third of all of college football? Is that right?
I think
it was an insane number. It was a record. They broke a record.
Yeah. I was looking for any of the, as of 6 days ago, there are still over 1,200 unsigned FBS scholarship players in the NCAA transfer portal per ESPN. That feels.
But
that's FBS scholarship, because all the numbers you're seeing are all division, NCAA football players. So it's been over 10,000 players have entered the portal across FBS, FCS, D2, and D3. It's approximately, I believe, 3,300 FBS scholarship players have entered the portal, which is set a record. Some guys are just going to be left out in the cold.
Well, and I think even the number one tackle, Jordan Seaton, in the entire portal, I don't even think he's still uncommitted.
He's still not committed, but he'll find somebody.
He'll find somebody, but the type of guys that are still out there, for example, Jordan Seaton is still out there for some reason.
Yeah, it's we've stopped pretending that classes matter for these guys.
Yeah.
Nobody's there to play school. We've stopped pretending you got to sign out by the beginning of the semester. We were pretending before. Yeah. We're really pretending now, especially with all these guys that are transferring around. If you go to 6 schools in 7 years, there's no way that you are receiving an actual degree. There's just no way. Even if you're transferring from state college to state college, I used to work in the bursar's office. Your credits, all of them, especially you can transfer around general credits, like gen ed, your first couple years of college. Once you get into any upper level degree, those credits don't transfer across universities if they have any respectability. We fully crossed over the threshold of this is semi-pro ball, guys. Yeah. And I know that's not a hot take or a cool take to have, but we are, especially with what you're seeing, and I'm sure we'll hit on it with the current situation in college basketball.
I was going to say in Alabama basketball, just reiterated that there is no such thing as an academic calendar whenever it comes to athletics anymore. I forget what his name was, but
Charles Bediako.
Yeah, a G League player, which is interesting because I believe it was just a couple weeks ago that Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, released a statement via Twitter whenever I forget his name, but the kid that Baylor was entertaining out of the G League. Yeah. Charlie Baker came out and released a statement on Twitter saying, we will not allow this. This is unacceptable. This will never be allowed in NCAA basketball. It's not possible. And then all of a sudden Alabama just does it. Just further cements my point that the NCAA is an organization only in name and logo, and that they have no real teeth. What I saw today, and I don't know, we don't have to get into it, but just what I saw today from Alabama basketball is actually really disgusting. And I think that will have more impact, negative impact and damage on the sport than anybody ever thought NIL or pay to play would have in the sport.
It's very, so there's a lot of things, and we don't have to, if you want to read actual lawyer information, like George Barclay, who writes he's all over this.
Has been all over it too.
Yeah, subscribe to Behind Closed Doors, create a post tagging George in there, and he will give you the best answer you can possibly get.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to dig into the legalese of all of this. I will ask you, because I don't feel like there's enough discussion of this, just because it is win at all costs, all this stuff. There's a couple things I want to get on. Number one, to a certain extent, why is this not being blamed more on the coaches that are doing this and just destroying the game at the hope of getting and the spirit of the rule? The fact this is being pushed, the spirit of the rule of how this is written. This is on Nate Oates. Yeah. You're spitting in the face of college basketball. Hey, it's legal under the rules. That's one side of it. Also, The issue that most people had with pay to play is the can of worms it was going to open. And we're experiencing the can of worms now. Is there's motivation to go back and play.
Yeah.
Like, people act like, ow, she's bit me twice.
It's an every episode thing that you shear your hand, she thinks they're toys.
Like, people act like that NIL was just going to come in and it was just going to be, and the players get paid and it's all positive. Well, that's not what's going to happen. It's going to create that's why it's called a can of worms. Like, because it opens up in ways and does things you can never imagine it's going to do in unpredictable fashion. That's what we're experiencing now. And the NCAA is just, at this point, I mean, George has some theories that I won't get into as they're a little complicated about why this is being allowed and different things with the SCORE Act.
I don't know if this is asked on the message board, but this will be the last thing I say about the topic. If Mark Byington was going to go in and get a former Vanderbilt G League player, who would you want? Or somebody that I guess has eligibility. I saw a lot of people saying Simi shit too.
But he's just another undersized four. Or a four. Vanderbilt needs a.
No, I agree with you. I would get Liam Robbins, but I do think that Simi would actually do really, really well.
Simi would cease in this offense, but Liam Robbins is.
I agree. It's got to
be the obvious answer. It would be Luke Cornett if he wasn't having an incredibly successful NBA career with the Spurs. Let's move on to what is happening in Vanderbilt basketball and not the larger landscape of college athletics. Let's start out with Vandy women's basketball. Still undefeated. 19-0, just beat number 7 Michigan. What was the name of that?
I don't remember, but I know it was I was at the Prudential Center.
The Coretta Scott King Classic.
Yes.
Vanderbilt beat number 7 Michigan 72-69. Actually got out to a pretty large lead early, and then held on at the end to beat Michigan. But Vanderbilt's still undefeated. Has Auburn at home tomorrow, today when you're listening to this. Plays Auburn at 6:30 p.m. on SEC Network Plus, and then a huge matchup on the 25th on the road against number 2 South Carolina at 2 p.m. on ESPN. That's a huge matchup.
That's gonna be a war.
Yeah, top 5 matchup in women's college basketball. But the Vandy women are rolling. Shea Ralph is a machine. Even though Michaela Blakes did not have a good game against Michigan, Vandy women's basketball is currently rolling.
Yeah,
and they are a legit top level contender. Now you got to see him go up against one of the elite programs in South Carolina. That's good. And they also scheduled a home and away with UConn.
Yeah, but going up against the elite of the elites, like they did it with LSU and Kim Mulkey. Mm-hmm. So this is a battle tested women's team. This is a team that could.
They beat two top 10 teams.
Yeah, they certainly could, and probably will, in all seriousness, go into Columbia, South Carolina, and come out with a victory.
I'm not putting anything past them. The SEC is absolutely freaking loaded.
Aubrey Galvin is a dog, by the way. Oh, dude. She's going to win. She's going to be an All-American freshman.
Yeah. That's all I have on basketball. But they're rolling. Like, I'm not meaning to diminish anything. I did watch some of the Michigan game when I got out of the meeting. Let's move on to a little bit less positive recap of what has happened since we last recorded. Vanderbilt men's basketball, as I talked about in the intro, 3 straight losses. Down to number 16 in the KenPom rankings, 15th in the AP. What has happened in the last 3 games? Vanderbilt lost at Texas 80-64, lost to Florida at home 98-94 in an all-out war. To be honest,
that was a great ball game.
That was a good basketball game. And then got blown out and embarrassed at Arkansas, 93-68. 0-3 in the last 3. 3-game slide. I know you have stuff you want to get to written down. Can I go over my
do your thing.
Deep analytics stuff?
No, those things still matter.
What is happening with Vanderbilt basketball? And I think if I go back, I haven't listened to my takes recorded. I bought into the hype train, and to some extent, I think the hype train is still somewhat real. Like, it's not just throw it all out the window. It's not like this team is terrible. I think I did have a tweet that said this Vanderbilt basketball team has no ceiling. Well, that's not true. This Vanderbilt basketball team does have a ceiling. However, when we were asked on previous message board questions, do you think this Vanderbilt team can be a top 2 seed, whatever, I think I consistently put, I think they can maybe be a 4 to 5 seed, somewhere in there. And the reason that I'm withdrawing this Vanderbilt basketball team has no ceiling is there is a clear ceiling on this Vanderbilt basketball team. And unfortunately, it's exactly what we thought it was going into the season, just looking at the roster construction. it's size and athleticism on the interior. And when Vanderbilt faces superior athleticism and size on the inside, Vanderbilt either can't / is really going to struggle to win. I'm not going to say can't because they are talented, but they're going to really struggle to win. And there are going to be specific stats that Vanderbilt just loses in those games. So going through these games at Texas, Vanderbilt was out-rebounded 42-24 and outscored in the paint 30-14 against Texas. Against Florida, Vanderbilt was out-rebounded 40-26, outscored 40-36 in the paint. A lot closer in points in the paint, a lot closer of a ball game. So they at least were close in one stat, even though they were out-rebounded heavily. At Arkansas, Vanderbilt was out-rebounded 39-27, was destroyed in points in the paint, outscored 50-22. In the last 3 games, Vanderbilt has been out-rebounded 121-77 and outscored in the paint 120-72. It would be different if we were sitting here talking about a shooting slump or didn't execute on offense, and there were other complaints that you can possibly have about guards not being able to stay in front and help having to come over and leading to open passing opportunities for points from the paint. The gist of this is Vanderbilt's not getting taller or more athletic or bigger throughout this season. The issues this team has are the issues this team has. And there is a ceiling on this team. They could have easily beaten Florida. They took the lead late in that game. It doesn't mean they can't win these games. But unfortunately, I think this hype train that rightfully so to some extent, Vanderbilt fans had found themselves buying into this team could be a top 2, top 3 seed, a legit national championship contender. Unfortunately, the size and athleticism just still isn't there on the interior.
Yeah, that's really the only takeaway that you can say after these 3 games is that Vanderbilt has an issue, and it just simply is size. Your starting rotation is Devin McLaughlin at the 5, who measures in at about 6'7". You do have Jalen Washington behind him at 6'10". I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit. I have some takes on Devin McLaughlin. I think that he's a wonderful guy. I think he's a great basketball player, but he's just playing out of position. And ultimately, whenever we talk about the size problem, you got a small 5 and a 5 that has regressed from what we saw last season, if we're being quite frank. This is not the Devin McLaughlin we saw last season. Devin McLaughlin last season was not by any means an elite spot-up shooter, but he was at least a threat. He could at least stretch the floor. This year, he has his three's broke. It's broke. The past 3 games, he's just played soft on the interior. It's one thing to get points scored on you in the paint. It's one thing to lose rebounds because of size. You can't really do anything about that. What I've seen from the interior, specifically Devin McLaughlin these past couple games, has really irked me because what I'm seeing is soft basketball. I'm seeing a guy that is not physical. I'm seeing a guy that's afraid to battle. I'm seeing a guy that is scared to go up and battle a guy that's got 3-4 inches on him. Is he going to win those most of the time? No, he's not. And is that his fault? No, it's really not. In fact, I would put that on Mark Byington for roster construction. You know what you had last year. You know what the problems were. This is a major problem, and you didn't address it. So that ultimately is on Mark Byington. But what Devin McLaughlin can control is his ability to hustle, his physicality, his mentality inside the paint and the lane. And really what I'm seeing from Devin McLaughlin is none of that. And that's really the frustrating thing.
Yeah, there is a part of this that is good of a job as Mark Byington has done so far in his tenure at Vanderbilt. There's been 2 glaring weaknesses, and it's been size on the interior. And this offseason didn't really get addressed. I think if the main issues on this roster were, man, they just don't have that scorer off the bench. They just don't have that guy that can come in. Tyler Harris was disappointing and isn't necessarily the scorer that we thought he was coming from Washington. If that was the issue with this team, or Duke Miles ended up not being what we expected scoring the basketball, it's just, and with the Frankie Collins injury, you're like, man, they just don't have the primary ball handlers and they don't have the scoring options and the scoring depth. If that was the problem, I don't think I would have the issue and be pointing anything in Byington's direction, because I would be saying, you tried to fix the problems. the guys you brought in just didn't pan out. This is like you looked at this roster before the year and you knew what the problems were going to be. And I'm not meaning to turn on this team. This team, I think, is
we are not turning on this basketball team.
So now that we've vented that out, I want to shift this conversation because there's more complaints that I'm sure we can get to during the premium message board questions.
But I will say, like, you talked about, like, missing on a guy. Like, let's call it what it is. Like, Mark Byington missed on Nicholson. Like, let's call it what it is. He's not playing right now because he's out of shape. He's too big.
Is it out of shape?
He's just out of
He had that illness.
I think he's just out of shape, man. And like Mason Nicholson, like, let's call it what it is. That's a miss. I don't think Jalen Washington was a miss.
No.
And we'll get to him in a little bit. Jalen Washington should be starting. Jalen Washington should be in the starting five. We'll get into it a little bit more. I have some stats comparing Glock and Washington in conference. Make no bones about it. Jalen Washington should be the starting five on this team.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
We can get into that in a second. But I do want to take a second. I didn't write out clean bullet points on this because I was hoping I would remember. Let's remember, this is where I always like to say you can't shift the goalposts, okay?
Yes.
And that happens in both directions. Normally, shifting the goalpost for most fan bases, and most of the time means you allow a coach to get away with being worse than the expectations were because they have some miraculous, they're worse to start out the year and they come together and start playing decent ball. That's one way to shift the goalposts. The other way is you start out incredibly hot, expectations get built up early, and then you forget what the expectations were going into the season. And that's where I think some Vanderbilt fans are, not all, maybe not people listening to this, but some expectations have been shifted of, we talked about it before, not in detail, but the expectations of this team were they would be slightly better than they were last year. Slightly better. This team was a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament last year. I think you were a little bit more bullish on them.
Yeah, I said going in, I think I had them at like a 4 or 5. I was pretty high.
And I think I was more that they would take a step forward, but would be more a 7 or an 8.
Yeah.
Would be the higher seed in their first round matchup. I still think that is the most likely spot this Vanderbilt team finishes. I think they finish, and you might have a different prediction. I think where this team finishes, they win around 10 games in the SEC, 9 to 10 to 11 games. And I think they finish as a 6 to 7 seed, worst case an 8, best case a 5. They finish somewhere in that range. You're raising your eyebrows like you disagree.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to go through the schedule in my head.
Well, I'm not doing it. I'm just saying we can go through the schedule if you want to, but just
we don't have to.
Game. I'm just where I see them finishing. I think they've had a tough stretch.
I would give them about at the best, I'd give them. Damn, dude. I'm gonna say it. At the best, I'd give them a 3. I think anywhere from a 3 to an 8. I know that's a large gap, but
I mean, it's just don't forget how this schedule plays out. I mean, Texas was a loss. It was on the road, but Texas is exactly that archetype with size on the interior that Vanderbilt could struggle with, and it was a road game.
Yes.
Florida, second best team in the conference ranking-wise next to Vanderbilt. I think Florida's the best team.
Returning national champions.
I mean, I think Florida's the best team in the conference.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, probably, too, I would say a healthy Alabama is above Vanderbilt. Right now, I'd go Florida, Alabama.
And then Arkansas on the road is probably the 3rd, 4th, 5th. It's another top 5 team.
And also the toughest. I feel like I'm making excuses. I'm not trying to make excuses, guys, but like also right up there with Rupp is one of the toughest places to play.
We're going from last episode where we were talking about this team has no ceiling.
Well,
they have a ceiling now.
Yes.
We've established the ceiling. It doesn't mean the ceiling is falling. It doesn't mean the sky is falling. Unless something completely unexpected happens. I mean, this team goes on the road against Mississippi State next game. Then they're at home against Kentucky. That's obviously a tough matchup with the athleticism, but Kentucky's been pretty disappointing under Mark Pope so far this year. Then they play at Ole Miss, then at home against Oklahoma, then on the road against Auburn, then at home against Texas A&M, then on the road against Missouri, at home against Tennessee. Their next ranked matchup isn't until they face Georgia at home. So they face back-to-back ranked opponents, and the schedule eases up a bit. Now, on the road in any SEC, opponent is a tough game.
Mm-hmm.
And Kentucky is a very sneaky, unranked team just because of the pure talent that they have on that roster, even though it hasn't gelled together whatsoever. But it's not – I titled my recap of the Arkansas game, is it time to press the panic button? I don't think the answer to that question is yes. I do not think it's time to press the panic button. We just know what this team's weaknesses are.
Mm-hmm.
They still have elite guards. They still have maybe the best shooter in the country in Tyler Nickel. They still have enough size and athleticism to compete with 75, 80% of teams in the country. If Vanderbilt's playing, Vanderbilt might be the best or one of the best undersized teams in the country, but they are undersized.
Mm-hmm.
So there is just a cap on this season, but it's not time to press the panic button because the expectations going into this year wasn't a Final Four or an Elite Eight team.
Mm-hmm.
The expectations have shifted because of the start, but I'm trying to end things more positively here. And I know there's some stuff you wanted to go into with some of the rotations and lineups as well that we've seen.
Well, I mean, and I'll add to, I agree wholeheartedly with 110% of what you just said. I don't think it's time to press the panic button yet. I think Vanderbilt does have an opportunity to get a get-back game on the road in Starkville against Mississippi State this weekend. But it's just echoing a lot of what you said, man. I think that it's hard for me to differentiate some of this stuff. Like one thing we know for certain is size is an objective problem. I think another issue that we've seen out of Vanderbilt the past 3 games is I'll stop hating on Devin McLaughlin for a little bit and I'll shift over to Duke Miles. Duke Miles. Duke Miles, I love him. I really, really do. He's reckless as hell on defense. Some of the fouls that he gets are, quite frankly, inexcusable. Fouled out of Florida, almost fouled out of 2 other games. He needs to lock it down on defense. He really does. And I know with the absence of Frankie Collins, he's being asked to do a lot of stuff right now, him and Tyler Tanner. And I think whenever Frankie Collins does come back, I think that'll be a really, really, really big addition to this Vanderbilt team. But like you look at it, but I think something with Duke Miles on defense and his aggressiveness and his sort of recklessness, that can be fixed. That's something that you can fix. Size and physicality down low, you cannot fix. Bad rebounding right now, I'm going to say I don't think Vanderbilt can fix that. Shots not falling the past couple of games. I know that Tyler Nickel had 17 in the first half against Arkansas. He single-handedly kept Vanderbilt in that basketball game. But you look at early on in that Arkansas game, like a lot of those shots just weren't falling. That's just part of basketball. There's going to be games in the future where Vanderbilt seemingly can't miss. That's not something I'm worried about. Last night, guards getting outplayed. Let's just call it what it is. Tyler Tanner got punched in the mouth by Darius Acuff. I don't think that's an indictment on Tyler Tanner per se. I think that is just Darius Acuff is going to be a top 20, top 15 NBA draft pick this upcoming season. Just is what it is. Tyler Tanner and Duke Miles aren't going to go up against Darius Acuff every weekend. But so those are some things that I think can be fixed. The glaring issue is when we're going to keep hitting on it is just physicality and size down low. I think giving Jalen Washington more minutes, I do think can mitigate that. Jalen Washington at 6'10" is about the size that you want for an SEC center, I think. Does his game lack some things? Absolutely. But he should be getting more usage and more minutes. And I think that's something that, for the meantime, could maybe stop the bleeding for this Vanderbilt front court. Like if you just look at, let's just compare Glock and Jalen Washington in conference. Let's look at Devin McLaughlin. His offensive rebound percentage is 10.5. That's abysmal. That's actually quite shameful. And the thing that's shameful about it is that even though he's undersized, we know that Devin McLaughlin can be better because he was better this time last year. So I think that just comes down to Devin McLaughlin just needs to nut up, and he just needs to man up, and he just needs to be more physical. Devin McLaughlin, his effective field goal percentage is 52%. We know that Devin McLaughlin can be a better shooter than that, but he hasn't been. And so, unfortunately, you have to learn there are repercussions. And at the end of the game, at the end of the day, the name of the game is winning ball games. If you're shooting an effective field goal percentage of 52%, especially most of your shots are within 2 to 7 feet of the rim, I'm sorry, that's inexcusable. Block rate, 3.1%. Like I said, these are all in conference. Now let's go to Jalen Washington. Jalen Washington, offensive rebound percentage of almost 15%. We'll call it at 14%, but almost 15%. Jalen Washington in conference is shooting effective field goal percentage of 55%. Jalen Washington also has a block rate of 5%. Not great, but still a little bit better than Devin McLaughlin. I think everything that this Vanderbilt team needs in the front court, I think Jalen Washington can provide. Jalen Washington's usage minutes are going to have to go up, and he's going to have to start for this Vanderbilt team from now on, I think.
I mean, do you think that there's any scenario that Mason Nicholson was intended to be such a key part of this rotation? And
I do.
Good God.
I think he was intended to be a real key part of this rotation.
And we're just not going to see him this year, basically.
Yeah. I really do think that's the case. I think Mason Nicholson was going to see a lot of minutes, especially in conference play.
I expected that, and that's not what has happened. We
It's
don't
just
know
a
what's
miss.
going on behind the scenes is what it is. And we'll have more, I'm sure, to talk about in the segment 2 for premium message board questions. But coming up, Vanderbilt has a road trip on the road against Mississippi State on Saturday at 5 p.m. on SEC Network. Then they return home, assuming they can get back here.
That's another big question. With the forecast, I don't know if this ever happened before. If it has, I don't know about it. What happens if Vandy gets stuck in Starkville? I'd imagine they're flying. They've got to fly.
But they could still get stuck.
Shit, yeah, you're right. I guess, yeah. Like if you're the SEC, like what do?
You have to adjust. I don't know what you do. I guess we'll find out because apparently there is an incredible amount of snow headed towards Nashville, Tennessee, as well as a lot of ice for the rest of the South and quite a bit of snow for a lot of other SEC teams. I went to Kroger today during my lunch break at work, was able to secure some meats to toss into the freezer.
Did you get any bread and milk?
I did not get milk. I did get some bread.
I'll get milk on Friday.
All right, perfect. Apparently the stores are getting cleaned out. But if Vanderbilt can return home, they are supposed to take on Kentucky at 8 p.m. on Tuesday night, the 27th on ESPN. And then me and Trevor will record on Wednesday after that. Trevor has been releasing detailed previews and analytics breakdowns for each upcoming matchup. Are you going to be doing that for the Mississippi State matchup this Saturday?
I will, yes. A little teaser. This Mississippi State team is not good, but Josh Hubbard is a dog, and I'm very afraid of what he could do to Vanderbilt slashing.
All right.
Averaging 22 points a game.
So look out for those full detailed previews to be released on thedoorreport.com and on our YouTube. Check those out. Also tweet them out when Trevor does them, if he decides to do them, because he might decide they're bad juju and cut them out. We'll see.
Vanderbilt is 0-3 whenever I do these videos. So, and I'm very super. I felt like an asshole. What was it, Saturday, whenever they were playing Florida? So where my season tickets are, Braden McPherson and his brother Grayson sit right beside me. And so we were there. I was there. Braden and Grayson were walking over, so their seats were unintended. Well, Miller comes and he sits down next to me and Joseph West. And Braden and Grace had come. They know that Miller has seats somewhere else, so they just take the seats beside him for the meantime. And as he gets close to tip off, I go, Miller, dude, you got to move. He's like, no, I will. I will. Whenever these people come, I go, no, Miller, I'm not playing around. Like, you haven't sat here all season, and we haven't lost a home game. Like, you have to move now. It's like 20 minutes left before the game. I felt so rude, but maybe Miller lost us that game because he sat there. He sat there and he didn't get up when I asked him to.
Very much so. There's a real possibility of that. So he should have trouble sleeping.
I'm very superstitious, y'all.
But we are going to head to the TDR cocktail break. So everybody out there, grab yourself a delicious ice cold beverage, and we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome into segment 2. We're going to jump straight into premium message board questions. We're going to try to have that be the schedule during basketball season until baseball starts. And baseball starts in less than a month.
And I'm already getting in arguments on Twitter about Tim Corbin. So
we're not going to go into
'tis the season.
We're not going to go into that yet, but soon we will be discussing some baseball. But for now, it's going to be segment 1 is basketball, any football news, and then segment 2 is going to be premium message board questions. So let's dive right in. First up, some of these are from before the Arkansas game. Some of them are from after.
Okay.
From GLH4VU, what is an appropriate action if I see duck shells in a public place?
Oh, God, we didn't even talk about the hook and hold. Oh, my God.
Or not even the hook and hold. It's really the hook and hold and then lack of hook and hold call.
Yeah, and then a 7-point possession.
Yep.
Okay. I can't say what the appropriate action is on air. Don't physically assault him, but
yeah, I concur. Next up, would you have taken timeout before the Tanner missed layup?
Dear God, yes. Oh my God, yes. A big coaching blunder on mine.
Yeah, that I'm always in favor of taking the timeout there instead of letting it play out.
Yes.
I see more and more coaches letting it play out. Take the timeout, draw up a play for Tyler Nickel. He's going to draw attention. Assuming that's not open, then you have a better look for one of your other guards like Tanner.
Yes.
So yes, absolutely, that was a blunder. And finally, from GLH4VU, when Frankie gets back, what are your expectations for him / the team?
That's a really good question. I don't think Frankie brings you a ton on offense, but I think he brings you a lot in terms of defense, and I think that's what this team needs right now. If you look at their offensive ratings on pick your side, Ken Palm, Torvik, they're still top 10 in the nation on offense whenever you look at their ratings. But his ability to guard and really, I think, give Duke Miles some time on the bench and really, especially to, God forbid, it's going to happen again, Duke Miles gets in foul trouble. You got another really viable guard you can bring into that front court or back court. I think that's huge.
Yeah, it's another primary ball handler. That's the biggest part. Vanderbilt has 2 right now in Duke Miles and Tyler Tanner. When they get Frankie back, they have 3 primary ball handlers, somebody to come off the bench. But that doesn't solve the size and athleticism problem on the inside.
No.
But it will help this offense flow, and when they rotate and bench guys, it'll help it flow. When they get in foul trouble with Duke Miles or Tyler Tanner, it will help this team tremendously. But as far as the 3 games they just lost,
even with Frankie, you lose those games.
Man, I don't know if there's that much of a difference in those 3 games.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason they lost to Florida, even though it was so close, had nothing to do with guard play. You could maybe say the Bama game, or not Bama, the Arkansas game would have helped, but they got blown out in that game. Mm-hmm. So the only one that was close relatively in the final 3, I don't think Frankie would have been the difference, even though he will be a big get back when he returns. Next up from World's Strongest Vandy Fan. Explain the hook and hold flagrant foul / way to gift a team 7 points to get back into a game / except when it's beneficial to Vanderbilt, to me. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
The hook and hold to me right now is in the stage, and so many comparisons can be drawn, but at the same time they can't. So much of the hook and hold right now is in the stage like targeting was at the beginning. However, targeting was implemented for a very valid reason surrounding player safety with concussions.
Yeah.
Hook and hold was implemented because of one freak injury. It shouldn't be a flagrant one to begin with. Number one, we've gotten way off on this. It shouldn't be a flagrant one to begin with. However, how in the world is the one against Devin McLaughlin not a hook and hold? Grab him by the elbow, hook your arm, drag him down by the elbow on review. I don't understand
I don't get that.
It's not that the first one wasn't a hook and hold against Shindulu. However, because it was shooting, he also gets to shoot the 2 shots from the shooting foul and gets 2 shots from the flagrant one, and they get the ball. And, of course, they buried a 3 right after that. So that's the 7-point possession. The hook and hold's broken. right now.
Yeah.
It's not defined clear enough. There haven't been enough examples yet, and hopefully it gets better. But number one, the core of this, it shouldn't be a flagrant one. It's way too severe. Even if you want to have it in its own category of something, it should just be one shot in the ball or something. Like, it's way too severe of a penalty
Agreed.
to be a flagrant one.
Agreed. But with that being said, if it is going to be a flagrant one, then when you see a hook and hold, you call a flagrant one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like, I agree. I don't think it should be a flagrant, but in the current state and in the current rule book, if it's a flagrant one, then damn, call it a flagrant one.
World's Strongest Vandy fan goes on to say, also never thought I'd add witness to supposed attempted murder to things I'd experienced at Memorial. But here we are. I think there was a brawl.
Yeah, there was like I didn't notice it at all because I was so sad after the game. Apparently in 3L right above me, like a guy almost got thrown off the top of 3L. I didn't see it at all. I got questioned.
That's suspicious.
I did not get questioned by. I actually did. Get
He
questioned
saw
by security.
nothing, so he says.
I did get questioned by security. They asked if I saw anything. I said no, I didn't see anything. Or did you hear anything? I said no, I didn't hear anything. I really didn't. If it wasn't for World's Strongest Vandy, I almost doxed them. If it wasn't for World's Strongest Vandy fan coming up to me like, dude, did you see that? They almost fell on you. I was like, Jeb, what are you talking about? Then here comes security.
Next up from Adam Baum, 1987. Would love a couple more offensive lineman portal additions, but that doesn't look likely at the moment. All in all, very pleased with the additions and not too many significant losses. Would love to see them close out on some high school recruits soon. Only one question currently. Who do you see at the strong tackle spot?
That's a great question.
That's going to be the weakness of this line. If I had to throw out a guess right now, it's going to be a Zupa kid. It's going to be Clinton Zupa kid.
Let me get back to you.
What they've done, they have McConnell returning. What they've done on the interior, what they did with Bo Johnson, the quick tackle. I love 80% of what they've done with this offensive line. That strong tackle is a big question mark.
I will say he is he was, whenever we saw him in fall camp, he was incredibly raw, but he was consistent enough to where like you saw his body of work and you're like, wow, if he can put it together at his size, he could be a problem. Like it was very routine for him to throw around Corday Senor. They were like, me and Will were watching some drills all through camp and we were like, holy shit.
He's a freak athletically.
Yeah.
He has a lot. It's going to have to be a big jump as far as
consistency.
It
will be.
Especially with a freshman quarterback potentially or likely behind him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of agree with what he said, which is overall, there's nothing, and maybe we'll hit on this more later, there's nothing that's been incredibly flashy, for lack of a better term, or too much. But I like what's happened in the portal so far.
Agreed.
I'm not saying I'm sitting here saying they're just going to get right back to being a CFP contender. I'm not saying that, but overall, I would say a relatively successful portal cycle for Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, relatively.
Yeah.
Next up from Pessimistic Door. How far would Cignetti take JMU if he never left? It's a great question. I know my answer.
Continual AQ
would have been consistently the G5 qualifier and not past that. I'm tired. Like, I don't want to be this person.
No, you went on a good rant beforehand. Go on this rant.
I'm not going to go on it too long, and it's not going to be too. What Cignetti has done at Indiana is incredible, and this is unprecedented success for Indiana football. And I'm not taking anything away from how incredible and unprecedented this is, and it's cool to see a new team at the top, national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. I need people to stop pretending that this roster was moneyballed and an incredible coaching job by Cignetti. Indiana happens to have this guy you might have heard of, Mark Cuban, very renowned sports fan billionaire who's basically given a blank check to Indiana football and said, I'm hands off, just get who you need. There's a reason Indiana's roster was so old. It's because they picked and chose who they wanted out of the transfer portal. that doesn't take away from what Cignetti has done. There are other schools that have had that opportunity too. Steve Sarkisian at Texas had that opportunity. Texas Tech had that opportunity. Plenty of schools that had that opportunity. But let's not pretend that Indiana just fought against all the odds and they have a roster that's only worth $12 million and somehow it's this island of misfit toys. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. This is a team full of old, experienced studs in college football. So Cignetti's an incredible coach, but at JMU with their limited resources, he's not like winning a national championship. It's not Cignetti's a big part. He's not all of it. Like it's also they have an incredible investment into their NIL funds, which helps a lot. All right, that's the part of this that has slightly bothered me. It's an incredible story. But if there was an ESPN 30 for 30 done, one of the main characters in this story is Mark Cuban. And let's stop pretending like Indiana's the Oakland Athletics, just fighting against everybody, and somehow they emerge victorious against the likes of Alabama and Ohio State. How could they ever compete with those funds and resources? Indiana's got the same resources. It's just cool that you've never seen them do it before. But in the era of NIL, Indiana's been incredibly capable and done a great job of capitalizing on that, largely due to Mark Cuban. Yeah, that's not like a conspiracy theory. That just is what has happened.
Agreed.
So Cignetti's an incredible coach. That's how I went in that. He's an incredible coach. And how he's executed it and brought in the guys. Incredible job.
Yeah, and changed the vision of Indiana.
But he didn't do it with a budget of $8 million, like compared to a $40 million budget from Texas. Like Indiana's roster likely had the same amount of money, if not more, than Miami's invested in it, or anybody in the country, or close to it. Next up, a lot of people edited their questions and removed them from the board. I'm thinking they had questions prior to the Arkansas game.
And then they got answered.
That's what I'm thinking. Denver Door, hypothetical. A lifelong Vandy fan has been in a coma for 5 years and has just woken up. He has no idea who Diego Pavia is and comes to you with a simple question. What is the one football game he should watch to fully understand and appreciate Diego and his impact for Vanderbilt? This is an easy question.
It's Alabama.
The one twist, you could bring out your laptop to show him, and you find that the 2024 Vanderbilt-Alabama game is corrupted and cannot be shown to him. So what is the one Vanderbilt game from the last 2 years that he should watch instead? Now that's a good question.
To just show like truly the greatness of Diego Pavia, I'm going to go a little – it's not off the beaten path, but I don't think this would be their number one. I'm going to go this 2025 Auburn game. If you want to see the greatness of Diego Pavia, I think it's 2025 Auburn. The way he like single-handedly took over a game. Maybe this past year's LSU game as well. I think you could also say Tennessee.
Yeah, I would say the Auburn game. I'm just thinking of like individual performance. You don't know any of the build-up. It's the Auburn game.
Maybe Vod Tech from 2024.
And if you really – I'm glad he added the caveat because it's so obvious in the 2024 Vanderbilt-Bama game. But maybe if you just – it's a bad opponent, but also you could just bring up the Kentucky game and be like, look, Kentucky's still Kentucky, but watch this.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Because Auburn wasn't exactly a juggernaut this year. And it's like, man, against Kentucky, I know it's Kentucky. Okay, they weren't that great. They were not good at all. But holy shit, he was sharp against Kentucky. I mean, but yeah, I think it's one of those games that he put up incredible numbers this year. Maybe the LSU game.
I think honorable mention. I think that 2024 Virginia Tech game to open the season.
Yeah, could be.
Like, because he was making plays out there, and we were in the stands like, holy shit, like, who is this kid?
Next up, that's a great question.
That's a really good question.
Next up from Vandy Tom. I think a first time question asker. We'll see. What record do you think the men's basketball team will go? And also, what seed do you think we will get in March? And this is prior to. He asked this prior to the Arkansas game, right before it tips.
I think in conference they go 11-6.
11-7, right? Because it's 18 games.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. 11 and no. Then I'll bump it up to 12-6.
Okay. See, I was going to say 10-8.
We're not far off. 2 games.
Yeah, that's right. And as far as seed. I'm going The funny thing is, I feel like I'm being negative compared to how I was like last episode, but compared to where I had them beginning of the season, I'm going to say like a 5 to 6 seed, somewhere in there. I think the worst case is like an 8 seed. The best case is like a 4 seed.
I was gonna say 4 to 5.
Yeah, I would say 5 to 7.
I think they definitely lose Kentucky at Rupp. I think they lose the last game of the season, Kentucky at, it's not TBA, it's like the Food Line or something like that. And I'm going to be honest, Georgia coming to Nashville scares me. They got some hoopers. They got size. They're physical down low.
Next up from Rue Miller, High Life. Says Xavier Lee had his jersey untucked for most of the game on Saturday, even after the officials told him 3 times to tuck it in. He was 0 for 4 with his jersey tucked and 8 of 9 with it untucked. With those splits, I legitimately think it made a difference. Is it not still the rule of technical foul after first warning for uniform violation? I was in the second row of the student section. We were absolutely howling at Xavier Lee throughout the game for his untucked jersey. Unfortunately, I think the energy in Memorial helped both teams on Saturday's Florida seemed to have a Pavia-esque love for hating fan bases. I would just say, like, I genuinely, I'm not trying to sound like this.
Another great question.
I love the sicko question, but like, yeah, it technically should be. If I see a technical for an untucked jersey, I don't care which side. Like, I'm gonna be a little mad. If it's obviously in favor of Vanderbilt, I'm gonna defend it and be like, well, don't play like that. But in my heart of hearts, like, that just shouldn't be a foul. Like, untucked jersey, whatever. I just don't care.
Joseph West was at the game with me, and he asked me this interesting question. So shout out to Joey Dwyer of Vandy SI, I think it is. He said that because of like the uniform fiasco, that if something happened to either Boogie Fland or Xavier Lee's jersey, I believe it was, since they didn't have a backup, I believe it was in a technical.
Yeah, of some kind.
And Joseph asked me, if you know this, and you're Mark Byington, do you just hard foul the shit out of them and rip their jersey?
Or there's somebody. I played on basketball teams my whole life. There's somebody that's susceptible to bloody noses. Do you send them out there?
Oh,
it's somewhat of a weapon, you could say.
Ooh, I love that. I really love that. Man, we should be on the baseline of Memorial.
That's some deep stuff there. Next up, this is all after the Arkansas game now. GLH4VU. I have no excuses for the Texas debacle, but how much do you think the schedule, late Wednesday away, early Saturday home, then Tuesday away, played into the team's performance at Arkansas? And is that a legitimate excuse in your eyes?
I wouldn't go as far to say it's a legitimate excuse, but I will say that that's a brutal schedule, and that's a really good point. Like, you can objectively say, like, man, that's like a really shitty schedule. But I wouldn't use it as an excuse.
Legitimate 100%, but not an excuse for getting beat by 25 by Arkansas.
Agree.
I think if they lost by 5, maybe you can say, man, they were just gassed and it's a tough turnaround. They got blown out.
Yeah.
And maybe that is somewhat of like, you can say, that played into it, but it's not an excuse.
Yeah, agree.
I think it's time to play Washington over Glock. He just isn't giving us anything anymore. Trevor holding his arms up in satisfaction. He goes on to say, why does Duke continue to foul so fucking much? Him being pulled and then fouling out of the Florida game may have cost us a win, though not more than the refs did. Please, God, let Frankie be back soon. He's just echoing exactly the sentiment that we talked about in basketball. And the only reason I didn't tack on what you said is you just did on it perfect with Duke Miles foul trouble.
It's like whenever Duke Miles is on ball, dude, it's like there's a switch in his brain that flips and his eyes just get big as saucers. He's like, I'm going to steal this fucking ball.
Yeah, it's the dumb fouls from him.
They're like 30 feet away from the basket.
30 feet away. You just can't do it. And Glock has also been getting
Glock has gotten some
fouls.
stupid fouls.
D. Whitworth 96, I think it says. With the way the men's team has been getting bullied on the glass the past 3 games and confirming that we didn't fix the height issues from last year, what is y'all's updated regular season record in seeding and tourney? kind of answer that a little bit.
Yeah.
With the way they have played, I don't see them making it past the first round again. I can see them winning one game now. I think they're around a 32 team, if I had to guess right now. Trevor might have higher expectations, but that's mine. And I think we already kind of gave a record prediction for where we set with SEC play because you can do the math from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm expecting them to have about 8 losses to end the season. Trevor's expecting them to have about 6, maybe 7.
Maybe 7. Yeah. I think this could. I think depending on matchups, this could be a Sweet 16 team. And if they get favorable matchups in 64 and 32, I think it could be a Sweet 16 team.
It's so matchup dependent.
Yes, it's so. Yes.
I mean, if they play teams with inferior size or just average size, I think they can easily make the Sweet 16. If they play a team that's if they're a, let's say, 8 seed and they play a 9 seed that has superior size, let's say a Texas, for example, that's not that great of a team, but they have superior size, Vanderbilt could lose in the first round. It's all going to depend on matchups. They have clear disadvantages due to certain matchups. And it's very obvious what Vanderbilt's limitations are now.
Yeah.
GLH for VU. Byington really seemed to criticize the team, rightfully so, in my opinion, in the post-game presser about not competing and being flat. Do you think any of the blame goes to him, or as paid athletes, is it their job to make sure they seem mentally ready to play?
That's also a really good question that I've thought about, but I've never put it in the context of like. Also, a lot of the guys on this roster are getting paid over $1 million. So like, if you're getting paid $1 million, like your coach shouldn't be on your ass to go out there and play. I think Byington obviously deserves blame for the roster construction in terms of the front court. In terms of in-game performance, I think it's players. Maybe I'm off base, but yeah, I think it's players.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything X's and O's
Yeah.
that I've seen that I've hated outside of the timeout that he didn't call against Florida, maybe that one. But the effort on the interior and just lack of size is due to Byington's roster construction.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, that Byington can't do anything about that. Like, the guys have to decide to compete on the interior. And when you're outsized like that, some of it's – I think it's the boring answer of splitting the baby of – I don't know if it's not Byington's job to get these guys ready to play, especially now that they're paid athletes. And I don't think it's even – like, I don't think it's Vanderbilt came out unfocused or unprepared to play. They have limitations and they hadn't really faced that type of brick wall yet. And they hadn't seen themselves struggle. And now they've seen themselves struggle. We're going to see how they respond. If they go into a full spiral mode, then I start to shift some of the blame to Byington.
Yeah, I'm right.
But as of right now, it's just players and roster construction that got to get their minds right. And we're going to see this Mississippi State game coming up on Saturday is huge. It's a huge game on the road.
You'll be able to learn a lot about I think the mentality of the Vanderbilt basketball team by this Saturday.
If they come out and beat Mississippi State on Saturday, and then we'll see what happens against Kentucky. But specifically, if they beat Mississippi State, my tune on this team is going to be just fine. If they lose to Mississippi State on Saturday,
I'm pressing the panic button.
It might be panic button pressing time.
Yeah.
From Jamie Lee Curtis _15. What is your initial reaction to how we approach the portal this year? The class seems solid, but I expected to land a few more big names coming off such a historic season. Why do you think we didn't take more aggressive swings? Right now, the market is
kind of fucked.
It's as inflated as it will ever be. And to be honest, Vanderbilt, it's not like Vanderbilt has done this. They don't have the same budget as the big boys up top. So if you're seeing elite prospects, like Vanderbilt's just in the same way that they were never truly competing in the past for like these high 5-star guys, like these elite prospects that hit the portal that are truly the can't miss guys, like Vanderbilt's just not going to get those consistently. What they can do is identify undervalued talent. And even that undervalued talent is incredibly expensive this year. But guys like Bo Johnson from North Dakota State, that's an incredibly good get. Like the edge rusher from Iowa, Brian Allen, that's an incredibly good get. Ricardo Jones from Clemson, that's an incredibly good get. Ja'Cory Thomas from ODU, that's an incredibly good get. None of these are like giant splashes. Like I understand what he's saying. Like I would have liked to see more. But I don't know if it's the historic season has allowed them to have another relatively successful portal cycle where they didn't hemorrhage talent. I just think to a certain extent the success of your previous year ties into the old realm of recruiting. It's a lot more what can you offer these players money-wise. And that's not a flaw of the players. It just is what it is right now.
Yeah, and to tack on to that, I agree. I know the market is just really inflated right now. So, like, for example, Pete Nakos reported about at the start of the portal cycle, like the asking price for just like an average starting tackle was upward of $1 million. Just your average tackle, $1 million. Like linebackers are getting paid like over $500K. Like that's a pretty inflated market.
And we'll see how it plays out. I mean, the money's not unlimited, but
Yeah.
I agree with what he's saying, which I would have hoped for some more splash gets. But what grade would you give this portal cycle? Like just as of right now, because last year's portal cycle, I don't think I would have given it an A or even a high B. I mean, last year's portal cycle was like, yeah, it's all right, it's solid, and then those guys panned out to be way better players than we expected.
Yeah, I'd probably give this a B.
I'd say a B. Yeah, that's where I'd sit with it. A B, a B minus, somewhere in there. I'm not close to an A, so that's the only reason I say just a B. But like, if we're doing the college grading scale of 80 to 90 is a B, I'm going like an 84. Right about there.
That's about, I was going to say 84, 85.
I like what they have done. I don't love what they've done, but I also am optimistic about the talent they've brought in and the talent they have retained. Retaining MK Young and Cedric Alexander and Junior Sherrill and Cole Spence and bringing in Jared Curtis and retaining a large portion of your defense. Granted, it struggled, but retaining guys like CJ Hurd, Dante Carter, like
Jordan
Markel
Matthews.
Hyde, like those are big retention guys. Like those are big guys to bring back. And you got Brock Taylor back in kicker. I mean, I don't want to de-emphasize that. There's a lot of teams that wish they had Brock Taylor. So
there's a lot of teams that went after Brock Taylor. So
Yeah.
that's a little insight right there. A lot of teams that found themselves in the playoff went after Brock Taylor. So I don't think I dropped that on the board. You're welcome. This free little nugget.
yeah, we're not sitting here singing the praises and exultative after the portal, but there's no part of us that is concerned deeply. There are going to be holes in every roster that's ever put out. Before the season, we were talking about the holes in this offensive line's unproven. Well, they turned out to be pretty solid.
Yeah.
We talked about the secondary was potentially a spot of struggle. Well, they did struggle. Like there's always going to be holes on the roster, but right now it's not a panic mode, and in and of itself, that's a win.
Yeah.
There are teams in panic mode right now.
Tennessee is in panic mode. Also, too, and this will be the last thing I say on this, I think this staff has earned, and I'm not saying that all Vandy fans should feel this way, but they've earned a lot of grace from me in particular because they've shown that they've been really, really good talent evaluators.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if like somebody like Javante Connor, if this staff, like if Brandon Flaherty likes him, if Tim Beck likes him, if Barton Simmons likes him, then I have reason to believe he's going to be a playmaker.
Yeah. I mean, I just watched this team go 10-2. So it's gonna I don't want to just keep emphasizing that other fan bases can make fun. I'm like, I watched this team go 10-2, something I never thought was possible.
Mm-hmm.
So forgive me if I have a little bit of grace for the staff and their evaluating of talent because I watched something happen in Vanderbilt football that I just thought was impossible. Really like 3 years ago. So maybe I'm giving them.
We thought was impossible like 8 months ago.
So maybe we're being a little soft, but I think they've earned some leash here. Last question we have from Unabridged. Back to basketball. What can this team do to get out of this skid? Is it attitude, execution, coaching?
I think it is attitude. I think it is execution. I think the coaching is fine. I will say, and like I don't, because this sounds like I'm shifting blame, and I don't want to put a bunch of blame on the schedule because like Vanderbilt was playing at a high clip. They should have beaten Florida. Honestly, that Arkansas and Texas loss were both inexcusable. I could see Vanderbilt winning both of those games, one of those games, but the effort in Arkansas was inexcusable. I think those can change. Your big glaring problem can't change. Like, there's nothing the size there's nothing you can do about it now, unless like you want to trot Jalen Washington out there and let him play 38 minutes a game. It can't change.
Yeah, I think it's a tough stretch of games with Vanderbilt's weaknesses. I don't think it's coaching. I do think the effort needs to be better in some aspects. They need to play smarter, but it's not something fixable, quote unquote. We've just seen the flaws of this team.
Yeah,
and adjust the expectations back more to what they were preseason. If you would have said this team was sitting at 16-3 before the season started, every single Vanderbilt fan would have taken that.
Yeah.
But it's just because they started 16-0, and that's not an excuse. They should have been ready. They should have beaten Florida. They shouldn't have been blown out by Arkansas. They should have been blown out by Texas. That's not an excuse. But this team just isn't. For a second, you saw a glimpse of a national title contending basketball team.
Yeah.
And that's just not what this team is.
Like, let's just adjust something. Like, let's say Vanderbilt lost to Memphis in overtime. And let's say Vanderbilt lost to Alabama, but they picked up 2 of Arkansas, Florida, Texas. We would be like, oh my God, this team is the greatest ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
it's just that it's tough that it's back to back to back.
This whole tune is going to change if they come out and lose to Mississippi State and Kentucky.
Yes.
Like they have to turn it around. So this is a big moment, a pivotal moment in this season for Vanderbilt basketball, with Mississippi State on the road this Saturday and Kentucky at home on Tuesday, assuming all travel arrangements can be made. Anything else you want to add on here on episode 350? That was the final question.
Yeah. I'll say I tweeted this. Vanderbilt is 0-3 whenever I get to see Mike James play tweet. So I also want to let the people know I will no longer be continuing those tweets, but I want to end this episode by saying my love for Mike James knows no bounds, even though I don't tweet it before every game. I fucking love Mike James. I do. Every home game, whenever it's quiet, I find a quiet moment, I cheer, I yell, I love you, Mike James. Every game, Mike has turned around and smiled. I love Mike James.
What a way to end it. For myself, Will Byrum, my co-host Trevor Hulan, and our producer Phoebe, this has been episode 350 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.